In a world of 350 billion movie podcasts, two chumps have decided that now is the time for cult movies to engage in combat. Disagreements will be had, blood may be spilled, and voiceover artists most definitely will not be paid. This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face-Off, episode 20. Representing, as always, Chet Roivas.
Hello.
And I am Nick Leonard. First of all, thanks very much to Ben Stroud for suggesting the two films that we're going to look at today. The two films we're going to look at in question are two 80s martial arts action movies that will strip down to the waist and go mano a mano. We are talking about American Ninja from 1985 and Kickboxer from 1989. So, without further ado, let's kick off with American Ninja. Joe Armstrong, an American soldier serving in the Philippines, single-handedly takes on the full force of a mercenary army, American Ninja.
For 2,000 years, the sacred art of the ninja has been guarded in the East.
Remember the day I found you.
Now, it has come to the West.
Remember what is hidden deep in your mind.
He is the only soldier.
Date of birth, unknown.
The only American.
Who is he?
Who is capable of defeating the secret Black Star Army. The deadliest art of the Orient is now in the hands of an American warrior.
Right, so, American Ninja. Have you seen it?
I had never seen this before. I'd seen the video box in my local video shop many thousands of times when I was a kid, but I'd never seen it before. Have you seen it before?
No. Same as, really. It was one of the ones I could never get hold of when I was a kid, renting chop socky movies, because it must have been an 18 certificate.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to see it, always, wanted to check it out, so I was quite looking forward to this. What did you think?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely diabolically poor. It's a proper canon film. I've seen so many canon films over the last 2 or 3 years that I could pick one out straight away. And this one starts brilliantly because it starts like a lot of canon films in that it almost seems to start in the middle. There's no establishing shots. There's no proper character introductions. You're just thrown into this scene of these soldiers standing outside this building playing hacky sack and stuff, but it just seems like I thought, this can't be the beginning, this can't be the start of the film, but it was. A monumentally crap film. Yeah,
I wouldn't disagree with that. It's cheesy and hokey as hell, but there's a lot of laughs to be had in it. It's one of those films I was watching going, this should be watched with a group of guys and a load of beers. And I also thought that the 12-year-old in me, it would massively appeal to it because it's the whole kind of ninja mythology. I mean, it's so kind of, everything's so shoehorned about ninja mythology and it's completely over the top and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But that's not to say it's not enjoyable.
I don't know whether I did enjoy it. I mean, first of all, what did you think of him as a hero, that main character? I mean, he's the sulkiest soldier of all time. He sulks.
Yeah, he does sulk. And what I thought was funny is that no one in the army knows Joe's name or rank, not even his commanding officers.
What were they calling him?
Well, his name was Joe, but nobody... It was kind of like a mystery. Until they started looking into his records and everything, they didn't know what his name was, they didn't know, he had no kind of backstory until they started pulling all the files on him and everything.
So what were they calling him, just Joe?
Just Joe.
I didn't notice that.
Michael Dudikoff. I mean, this film is very much his vehicle. He's an ex-model that had zero martial arts training prior to the film.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that is seen because you can see that it cuts away all the time. There's no kind of close shots of him actually. All of the times that when he's actually doing his kicks and his punches, they're shot kind of behind him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a supremely dumb film, but it was all right. I mean, it just kind of, there was always stuff happening. I mean, there was a lot of action set pieces. There wasn't a lot of kind of flim-flam in it in terms of long, drawn-out dialogue scenes. I mean, the acting was universally poor, but I did chuckle every time the baddie, who was obviously really badly overdubbed, every time he spoke, I was chuckling.
One thing that I noticed is that it's a very poorly made film, but in particular the editing is really, really strange. It's like someone was having a laugh in the editing suite.
Yeah. Well, one of the points of editing, which I thought, I kind of rewound it a couple of times. There's a scene where he gets hold of Steve James, the sidekick's pride and joy, which is his motorcycle, and there's a conveniently placed ramp so he can jump over the wall. Once he jumps over the wall, it cuts to a stuntman crashing into the handlebars of the bike with no helmet on. It looked like he was going to be in a fuckload of pain after that scene.
I didn't even notice that. They must have cut away really fast because I didn't even pick that out.
Oh God, I rewound it like 3 times. You can see it quite clearly. A guy takes the full fucking force of the bike landing and he just whips over and smashes his face into the bars and it cuts.
The reason I thought the editing was weird is because there's two moments in particular. There's one bit at the very beginning where you see Dudikoff apparently use like a sixth sense to duck as an someone tries to sort of knock him on the back of the head. So a guy goes to sort of whack him with the butt of his gun and he ducks. But it happens kind of in the background, and the shot changes to kind of take emphasis away from it. And I thought, is that a mistake? Was that supposed to? Oh, look! It happened so. It's edited so strangely. It didn't even seem like they were supposed to put any kind of emphasis on it at all. And also, there's a bit where Dudikoff just runs into the shot and planks, and then lands flat on concrete. And you think, and I laughed. I was like, what the fuck? It cuts away, and then it cuts back to show that he was actually trying to avoid being run over.
Yeah.
But why would you cut away from that? It's just a man just planking onto the middle of the road. So strange.
It's an odd decision. It is quite erratic, some of the editing.
There was also there's a weirdly long and pointless shot of Dudikoff walking down the street. I mean, it goes on for the best part of, I reckon, about 45 seconds. And it's just after he gets a bollocking from his superior the first time. And it's followed by a flashback that's so brief, I thought it looked like a mistake. It looked like they'd edited it in by mistake. It's so amateurishly assembled, this movie. And a lot of it it's so choppy that I reckon a lot of it can be in any order. You could sort of mix and match it and sort of assemble it in a completely different order and you wouldn't notice.
Yeah. It grossed a shitload of money, this movie. I mean, it's a shoestring budget. It was shot for $1 million and it grossed $35 million.
Wow.
It certainly cleaned its face. Interestingly, Chuck Norris passed. He was offered the role, but he passed on this because he didn't want his face hidden on camera. So he wasn't up for, in any way, shape or form, being a ninja. I'm certainly not the most informed Chuck Norris film historian.
Me neither.
He's made some pretty bad films in the 80s.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, I like you. I don't think it's completely abysmal. Actually, I'm lying. I think it's completely abysmal. It's just one of those terrible. It's like a pile-up of cliches. There's a kidnapping that involves a phony roadblock, and then Mr. Big, who looks like Mr. Del Monte with his white suit. What did you think of the soundtrack, the music, the audio, the score? Sorry.
The score was wasn't it? I'm trying to recall the score. It was kind of like really, really subpar Oriental James Bond kind of scoring.
Yeah, kind of. I just thought, apparently, I think the music for this was also used in a couple of Chuck Norris movies, apparently.
Oh, they just recycled the soundtrack?
Yeah, but this is the first time in a long, long time where I had to keep muting it because the music is just a jumbled up mess and it made me really stressed. It's really stressful. It's kind of... It's synths and then it's brass and then it's strings and then there's flutes and it's just kind of going all over.
Isn't there a constant though? Isn't there a kind of it reverts back to? Isn't there every time they're in kind of when the baddies training camp there was the same soundtrack going on on loop.
There might have been. I think the only music that I noticed because it was stressing me out so much was the main theme. It sounds like a massive bunch of musicians just jamming and improvising, and it's hellish. I'll tell you what. I'll find a snippet and I'll put it right here. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that highlighted how awful the music was. And yeah, there's things that the film does that I've noticed a lot of really shit films do. I mean, K9 did it when we spoke about that a few weeks ago, where they're so desperate for all of the cliches to be there that they have ridiculous reasons for, like, the captain being an antagonist. Like in K9, James Belushi almost dies, and his captain's like furious with him for almost getting killed, which was a weird reason. And in this, when Dudikoff basically saves this girl, he returns to the stockade, and his superior says, "Oh, I suppose you think you're a hero because you brought my daughter back alive." That's grumpy, isn't it? I mean, of all the reasons to be pissed off, saved his daughter's life. Oh yeah, you think you're a hero? Fucking hell! I was just like, come on.
He gets unreasonable amounts of shit.
He does, yeah.
But I think what they're upset about though is they're upset that all those soldiers died. That's why they were upset with him.
They should be just like, oh, yeah, it's a shit situation. I'm glad you're alive, and I'm glad you saved the life of my daughter. That's what I'd say.
They completely glazed over the fact that he saved anybody, and they were just really pissed at him. And make very derogatory remarks about people who served in Vietnam.
Yeah, I know. This is kind of like one of those films made in the 80s that, although it's set in the Philippines, and I think they shot it in the Philippines, it's one of those kind of thinly veiled "Let's win Vietnam again" movies that Cannon used to specialise in. Whereas it's to most people, because I don't think they even say where the film's shot, it kind of has an air of like a Vietnam movie. So it's a "Let's win Vietnam again" film. It's also a "He's the Chosen One" movie, as you gradually get to realise that this guy's the chosen one. And it's also a weird sort of amiable boot camp movie for a little while, because Dudikoff starts upsetting his superiors, obviously, and there's the bit where he sneaks out to see the girl. It's kind of like something that should be a knockabout comedy.
Yeah, that scene felt really odd.
Slap bang in the middle, yeah. He's nipping out to go and have a bit of romance.
Kind of courting her in the most kind of, I mean, because the guy's got no charm. I mean, I've mentioned this before with people, like they could be modelling wool, but he has got zero charisma, and apparently Globus picked him because they apparently auditioned 2,000 actors before they got to Dudikoff, and Globus was like, "That's my Steve McQueen."
That's the only time those two people have been mentioned in the same sentence.
Yeah, I mean, this is a terrible movie, but with a load of beers and a load of mates, there is laughs to be had in this. It's not completely derivative. It is cheesy, it is preposterous, but yeah, it's just there's always so much happening on the screen, and it's more smirking at it. I mean, the combat is really bad.
It's more like the whole idea of him being a ninja seems to be almost that he's quite good at a sort of primitive form of parkour, and he's jumping around the place. And when it sort of comes to him illustrating his skills, the funny thing I thought about the combat is that the ninjas that attack him almost always make a noise, so they telegraph their attacks while they're going yeah or huh, even when they come at him from behind. So his best skill is the fact that he's not deaf.
I mean, those ninjas are really daft. I mean, the fact is that in that opening sequence, the opening sequence when the ninjas descend upon the army convoy, right? This is broad daylight. The sun is blistering down, and all the ninjas are dressed in jet black outfits.
Yeah, right.
They would see them coming a mile off.
Yeah, right.
But they managed to just... I was giggling at stuff because it's like all these ninjas are sliding down these massive trees just like they were fireman poles.
Yeah, right.
The first 15... It's a Cannon film. It's Globos. In the first 20 minutes, I'm just like, look, this is going to be a complete heap of shit. So I'm just going to try and mine the daft shit that I'm going to be able to giggle at it. The Black Star Ninja. Now, by far, he is criminally underused because he is really the only person in this entire movie who's a bona fide martial artist.
Yeah.
When they show the scene of him flexing his to show his kind of ruthlessness, when he basically has 3 or 4 of his guys attack him, and he's pulling off some really dexterous kicks, and then he just kills the guy at the end. I was like, okay, this guy's got to get some more screen time, but he really wasn't. He was really badly underused. Steve James, who is the sidekick to Joe Jackson, he's he's a good screen presence. He cropped up in another one of the an earlier podcast. He's the black dealer in the ghetto that William Dafoe was dealing with in To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of screen presence. I did like the sight of him riding in on a machine gun turret in a Jeep, just kind of with his smiling, popping off rounds. I enjoyed that.
Did you have a favourite scene?
Did I have a favourite scene? Oh yeah, I've got well. Anything that took place in that kind of massive training camp was a highlight. I mean, the bit I think I liked the most was the last sort of 10 minutes when they're kind of pursuing each other. Now, instead of kind of just obviously running a straight line, what they do is they go through like a part of the assault course where those things are swinging.
Right, yeah.
It's completely stupid and pointless, but it had me fucking laughing.
My favourite bit by far is when you first go to the villain's lair and he has this private army and you realise that they've got colour-coded jumpsuits.
Yeah.
So you notice that there's yellow jumpsuits and they seem to just be in the background doing cartwheels and stuff. Yeah. And then there's the orange jumpsuits who just seem to be like building stuff or like working on a climbing frame or something. And then the red jumpsuits, they've got it the worst because once you progress to a red jumpsuit, apparently your job is to possibly get picked out by guys in black jumpsuits and then get killed by them. So if I was in a yellow jumpsuit, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels in the background.
Was every time somebody got offed in a red jumpsuit?
No. It was just in that training scene. You know that guy? I think it was the scene you mentioned where the main bad guy just picks a guy out and then just basically kills him.
Yeah.
But I thought if there's some sort of progression system, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels as a yellow. I'd be fucking my back and going, I'm never gonna get to the red jumpsuit. That was my favourite scene. Apart from that, it was it's properly a canon film. It's incoherent. It's ineptly made. Ludicrously trashy, and I don't think anyone could put a case forward for it being a good film in any way. I mean, nostalgia. Sure.
No. I mean, this is the thing though: is you go online and there are some die-hard fans of this movie.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Which is bonkers because you think during this time, the late 80s, Jackie Chan was churning out like Police Story 2, Project A Part 2. I mean, there were some seriously good martial arts movies. Why the fuck you would go to this? And this is hence it spawned like 3 sequels.
Yeah, and Dudikoff's not in he's only in the second one, I think.
Yeah, I think Steve James reprises his role in one of them as well. I mean, what else is there to say about it?
There is also, we brought this up before, it was in one of the comic strip comedies that we looked at. There is the Hans Moleman kill, where a guy goes down in a car and crashes very slowly into a tree, and then the car just explodes. Right. Oh no, I just made my last payment. That death from
The Simpsons. Well, when does it happen in American Ninja?
I can't remember. It's that movie's a jumble in my mind, and I only watched it 2 days ago. But that definitely happens. The guy goes and you see a car slowly crash into a tree and then blow up like it's loaded with C4.
The nut kicking sound effect was pretty good.
I didn't notice that. What did it sound like?
Every time Michael Dudikoff or Steve James kick a foe in the nuts, it's just this eye-watering squelching noise that he kept, and it was the sound mix was disproportionate, and it really it was really loud.
I didn't notice that. I thought it was weird that the film stops as indecisively as it started. It kind of just stops. I thought, is that really the end? That's the big final finale?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the big finale, is the helicopter blowing up.
Yeah, but where
do you go from that big action set piece?
Yeah, it's so underwhelming. I don't know. I mean, there is a charm to this, but I do think it's legitimately, it's just crap.
I wouldn't disagree.
All right.
Right, onwards and upwards. Right, so next up is Kickboxer from 1989. US kickboxing champion Eric Sloan and his brother Kurt travel to Thailand to take on Thai champion Tong Po. Eric is gravely injured, which puts his brother on a path of vengeance that leads to the fight of his life. Kickboxer.
A champion from the West.
Now that you've beaten everyone there is to beat, what's next?
A legend of the East. A competition that went too far.
No! That's my brother! No!
Your brother is paralyzed. He can never walk again.
He's going to pay for this.
The only way you'll find him is inside the ring, and you are not good enough!
I'll get him.
Now, an untested challenger seeks an unwilling master.
May I help you?
Uncle Xian's going to teach you. My uncle does not teach anyone anymore.
I'm telling you, man. He's greater than a 3-headed cat.
You fight before?
Yeah, I'm good.
It's trained different in America. Your defense stinks.
to learn the art of an ancient combat.
You must learn to be faster than any punch or kick.
A combat where to survive, you must destroy.
Do not let your emotion control you if you want to be warrior.
Different culture, different world.
They will fight the ancient way. Just listen. With your mind, your heart, your whole being. I'll win that fight for you and me.
For honor. For love. For justice. Jean-Claude Van Damme. The power of a warrior. The heart of a champion. Kickboxer.
Right, so Kickboxer. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen Kickboxer.
I saw it as a kid, God knows how many times, loved it. When I was that age, I couldn't really engage with sort of kung fu films, Bruce Lee, etc. And this is much more like a Rocky film or a Karate Kid film, neither of which I'd seen at that age. So yeah, I loved it. What about you?
Yeah, I'd seen Kickboxer loads as a kid. This was the second Jean-Claude Van Damme film I'd seen. I remember very clearly watching No Retreat, No Surrender, and then spotting Jean-Claude Van Damme on the front of Kickboxer, and promptly got hold of it and watched it loads, and then I got hold of Bloodsport. I found my recollection, I could never remember which way round and which baddies feature which, but as soon as it started, I was like, right, I know where I am now. Yeah, I mean, this is a mixed bag, Kickboxer. I mean, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme was responsible for doing all of the fight choreography for this film. Yeah. And it has some of the most unimaginative fight choreography I have ever seen.
Yeah, true that, yeah.
There's a scene leading up, so once Kurt Sloan is kind of having the fight on his way to clinching the match with Tong Po, there's a fight he has when all they are doing is side-kicking each other in the ribs.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That is the fight. I mean, yeah. Disappointing. This is very much, all of the training montages, everything was just to basically highlight the dexterity of Jean-Claude Van Damme. That he can do the splits, and that he can do a flying reverse kick. Yeah, I definitely, from watching this, Bloodsport, I know that I prefer Bloodsport to Kickboxer. That was my favourite of the two films.
I can never remember, I could never tell them apart. Well, in my memory, I could never tell them apart, but I think I thought Bloodsport was a better film as well. But I did kind of like going back to this. I mean, you have to say this about Van Damme. He has clearly improved as his career has gone on, because he is fucking awful in this film. There's one scene especially where when he's trying to get his brothers to back out of fighting Tong Po at the beginning, and it's embarrassing. His acting skills are, I mean, it's pretty amusing how bad he is in this.
Yeah, I got a lot of laughs actually from how bad his acting was. I mean, when the doctor comes out of the hospital and breaks the news that his brother's paralysed, I mean, I fucking laughed a lot. It opens with one of the most unintentionally homoerotic scenes. I mean, forget the Top Gun volleyball sequence. This trumps it. That's worth that's worth the admission price alone of rewatching Kickboxer.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was really interesting is that his brother, who's Dennis Alexio, was his name, I think. Did you say?
Yeah, who's was actually a bona fide kickboxing champion back in the day.
That's right. He's Van Damme's brother, and he is a trailblazing arsehole. He is unbelievably arrogant, and he refuses to learn any new information about the sport that he's supposed to be an expert in. He doesn't want to know anything. And there's a bit where he's in hospital and he fills up a nurse and she runs away.
He just grabs her ass.
Yeah, shenanigans, hilarious. I mean, like, he's a I was just like, leave him there and to disappear. If I was Van Damme, I'd have done a runner. But one thing I did like is the way that crowd scenes were directed. Whenever you saw a massive crowd, the director clearly just said to them, just keep pumping your fists.
Go mental.
Pump your fists in the air, just and don't stop. Even when nothing's going on and you see people, they're just there punching the air. It's the wonkiest crowd scenes I've ever seen outside of a Christopher Nolan film, which if you ever, I'm a fan of Christopher Nolan, as many people are. If you go and look at the big crowd scenes in all of his films, the second unit team just didn't direct the actors. I mean, The Dark Knight Rises, when there's those big scenes of people fighting in the street, it just looks... I can't believe that it actually got released as a AAA studio film. But the crowd scenes are hilarious. They're good for a couple of laughs at least.
Yeah. The Van Damme dance sequence, which is kind of probably the most viewed YouTube clip of this movie, I mean, doesn't disappoint. It's so... What a fucking odd decision to have that.
I know.
We should probably post it up just to make sure people have seen it. I mean, first of all, Jean-Claude Van Damme cannot play drunk. I mean, that's funny in itself. And just the moves that he does. I mean, he's just shaking his tush and doing... I mean, he's just like... It's fucking brilliant.
Definitely. I really do like the fact that he was actually playing a wimp. I mean, it's said at one point... that Van Damme's character apparently wants to be a vet. I mean, I've never seen a vet that looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but
that would maybe explain the bit where he bends down and strokes a bunny rabbit.
when does he do that again?
There's a scene when he's training and he bends down and strokes a bunny rabbit.
Oh, of course. No, sorry, I do remember that. Yeah, cool. That's consistent with the plot. Good for them. But the fact that he is actually a complete wimp. I mean, my favourite scene in this film was where he goes into a Thai boxing gym and he tells the trainer that he wants to train to fight Tong Po, and the trainer tells the kids in this dojo what he just said, and they all burst out laughing, and he just walks out, stomps off in a sulk. I was like, he's got no backbone. I like the fact that he is. I don't think Van Damme would play that. He would have asked for that scene to be cut later in his career, but I did like the fact that he was just the opposite.
A complete puss.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently, there's also this stuff in his character that mirrors Van Damme. The fact that his brother talks to him about he did ballet, and Van Damme did ballet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Apparently, Tong Po, the actor who played Tong Po in the film, is somebody he trained with years and years before.
Yeah, he's some Brazilian dude that they put makeup on him to make him look more authentically Thai.
Oh, so he's not. I thought he was a Thai actor.
No, not at all. Not at all. If you go, him and Van Damme, they both share their opening, their first screen credit together, which is in a film called Electric Boogaloo, which is also another cracking bit of terrible dancing.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So both of them, Tong Po and Van Damme, are in that scene.
I'll have to go back and watch it and just see if I can pick out Tong Po.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you Google image the Tong Po actor, you look at his face, you wouldn't even, you'd never make the connection that he was Tong Po. He looks completely Western.
Oh, wow.
Thai kickboxing, the moves in Thai kickboxing, he doesn't show any of them. There's no clinch game. There's no, he basically goes and learns Tai Chi.
Yeah,
he doesn't improve his game in terms of adding any more moves or anything like that. And where this film really falls down, and I was really surprised because I was really looking forward to the final fight, and in my memory of it, I was like, oh, the final fight goes off. They dunk their hands in the glue, they put the glass on, and they throw it down.
Yeah.
Once again, it is completely, terribly, it's a shit fight, because basically what you've got is the first 2 rounds of Van Damme just one-way traffic, getting a beating. Then he finds out his brother is safe. He hits Tong Po once and draws blood. Tong Po then just stands up like a plank of fucking wood and just takes a smack. There's no counter punches, there's nothing. Yeah. It's a terrible last fight.
I did see some positive reviews about the choreography when the film came out, so maybe it looked good all those years ago.
I don't know what they were smoking. I mean, there's some really cheap techniques, and there's a technique which they use probably half a dozen times, when a kick or a punch is landed. And then what they do is in quick succession, they play that 3 times in a loop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
They use that technique loads. The only bits which worked were just kind of the very much the slow-mo takes of Van Damme. You know, it's undeniable. Van Damme's high kicks are the money shots.
Yeah.
But apart from those, the fights are fucking bogus.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was actually one scene in this that I found really hard to watch. It's when the I'll call him Mr. Miyagi. I can't remember what his name was. Demands that Van Damme kick a tree trunk until he basically passes out from the pain. And you know, being as we are all too aware now of what leg kicks can do both to the kicker and the recipient of a kick from watching UFC. I was like watching a scene in a horror film. I was like, I can't look at it.
Yeah. I was wincing to that as well. That's actually one of the actually my favourite scene in this film is the introduction of Tong Po. It's a great scene.
Oh, when he's in the
you just hear this. You just hear this. Doof, doof, and then you just see almost like a serpent's tail. Tong Po's hair just flicks into shot.
Yeah.
And before you see him, it's a really great reveal and introduction to Tong Po, and that still really resonated.
Answer me this, because I'm completely ignorant of this. Are there sort of fighting styles where it benefits you to repeatedly kick to try and strengthen your leg? Is that a thing?
That seems bonkers to me, because the fucking shin bone, you can't strengthen your shin bone.
That's what I
mean, even if you have somebody, if somebody runs their foot down your shin, not even kicking it, just running it down your shin, it's fucking agony.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think it's just a fucking male bravado thing, to be honest. It's just a kind of masochistic device to show how fucking mental he is.
It's a bit... I mean, that's one case, but this is a film that repeatedly kind of goes a little bit too far. I mean, this is one of the most superfluous rapes of the character of all time.
As soon as you said that, I knew you were gonna talk about that. It's uncomfortably shoehorned in.
Just to give Van Damme a bit of extra oomph in the final fight. I mean, talk about unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. And same as the guy feeling up someone in the... I mean, periodically, it just does things that are really just completely not necessary.
Yeah, no doubt.
One thing I will say about this is that I do miss the kind of incomparable simplicity of films like this, because... If you go on iTunes and like rent a trashy genre film nowadays, they're almost always overwrought and murky and confusing, and there's so much plot. The plot of this film is Van Damme has to have a fight with somebody. That's the film, and I kind of liked it for that. The downside is that it's so forgettable. I remembered nothing of this. There were a couple of things, like you said. I remembered the final fight with the glue and the glass. But I was amazed by how much of the film played out, and I was like, I don't remember any of this happening. And it is one of those films that's trying to disguise how little action's in it, because it's barely an action film, really. There's a lot of fucking
I mean, the whole middle section, not a lot happens at all.
Yeah.
This is what the thing is. You know, the funny thing about this is, like, before we started watching these two movies, I was like, it's going to be... I've just got a feeling that I know that fucking America... I've got so low hopes for American Ninja, and Kickboxer is going to completely blow it out of the water. But I found myself going, I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme is infinitely more watchable than Dudikoff, without a doubt. But I got way more laughs. It just kind of like, you know, it wore its fucking colours on its shirt from the very off in American Ninja, whereas this, it kind of has aspirations of kind of being a serious martial arts film to a certain degree, whereas, like, American Ninja is just a complete fucking exploitation cheese fest. Yeah. And throws everything at you and is just... You know, I just kind of went along for the ride. Whereas this, I kind of was going like, Christ, this is... I was looking, you know, the runtime seemed way longer than American Ninja. American Ninja like kind of zoomed past pretty rapidly.
I'm worrying about where you're going with your vote, but we'll get to that in a minute. The one thing I did like about this is that it was all shot on location, and Thailand actually looks like a different country, whereas if you were to shoot it today, it wouldn't really look anything like it does in this film. There's some nice, it's a reasonably nice looking film for
yeah, you can't argue about how nice the photography of Thailand. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to not shoot sunsets in Thailand in the temple and it not look amazing.
Did you notice any shit lookalikes?
What in in Kickboxer.
Yeah, anything at all?
No, what you got?
It's quite uncanny, really, and I'll put it on our YouTube channel. Around 32 minutes in at the village, when he's buying groceries from that little shack, the Thai Mark Wahlberg appears, and they have a fight.
Is he one of the henchmen?
Yeah, but it's uncanny. It looks like Mike Wahlberg, but it looks like a brother of Mike Wahlberg.
Okay, you're going to have to put that in the video and zoom in on his mush.
Yeah, I will. It's kind of uncanny. I do remember also around the similar sort of time in the film, my favourite bit was where Van Damme is training alone outside this temple. And it suddenly cuts to an eagle with its mouth open.
Oh, no.
It's watching him in awe.
The eagle comes back as well in a flashback towards the end.
With its mouth open.
Yeah.
I love that bit. That's my favourite.
Right. So, where we go. This is what I'm saying. I thought it was going to be a complete clean cut Kickboxer over American Ninja, but American Ninja actually surprised me. It really did. It's kind of like I accepted how shit it was very, very early on. And it ended up being, better than I thought. I mean, a canon film, really derivative, really cheesy, really exploitative. I would say I would get a group of friends over and have beers, and that's going to be more entertaining than Kickboxer. Even though Kickboxer is hands down the better movie, it's got the better martial artist, there's more laughs to be had than American Ninja.
I agree with that, but I just can't abide filmmaking that sloppy. I mean, canon films are so.
That's what they. That's.
Oh no! But I did. But like,
that's their MO.
I would definitely sit down and watch this with a room full of people and a few beers if I had to pick one of these two for that situation. But as a better, I mean, I think it's hands down Kickboxer's a better film. It's not a great film at all. It's actually pretty rubbish, but. There's a lot more to like in it, and even though it does some tasteless shit, I thought that it was a better made film. So I could never, in any confidence, say that American Ninja won this. No.
The better film is Kickboxer, but there is way more laughs to be had in American Ninja. You can't. I mean, there's a lot more finesse. It's shot better. It looks better. I mean, it's got way, there's definitely more money on screen than American Ninja. And the slow-mo shots are cool. There was never any shots in American Ninja where you would go, oh, that was done well. There's no moments where you're impressed with Dudikoff, because Dudikoff isn't a martial artist. Yeah. He's a model that's never studied any martial arts.
I love that scene in American Ninja where he basically he's having a face-off with Steve James for the first time, and their fight consists of him just repeatedly sort of throwing him.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Was that really impressive in the 80s?
No, I'm sure it wasn't. Fuck. It's kind of laughable that bit, but yeah. I think.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say I agree with what you're saying, but I still have to. I couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, there's no way. American Ninja is going to be elevated. Is going to win this face-off. But as I said, there is stuff to enjoy in that. But in terms of the better made film, the better directed film, is Kickboxer. I mean, and you've got all that, as you mentioned before. It has got those kind of the tropes from Karate Kid and Rocky, and you do root for him. You do, even though his brother's an absolute arsehole. Yeah. Tong Po's a great baddie.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
but he's no Bolo Young. But who is apart from Bolo Young?
Okay.
And Bolo Young's the baddie in Bloodsport.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Bolo Young. Yeah.
I thought, but so who was I thinking of? Not Bolo Young. I'm thinking of that guy.
You're getting your Sammo Hungs and your Bolo Young.
Sorry, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, sorry. Okay, well, yeah. I guess we both come to the same conclusion. Maybe one day we'll do Kickboxer 2 versus American Ninja 2. That'd be a laugh.
Okay. That's a possibility. Apparently, like I think it's. I was reading that Kickboxer 3. Apparently, literally the whole thing is filmed in slow-mo.
The whole film,
which makes me want to check it out.
They can't. Not literally the whole film.
No, apparently every fight sequence is in slow motion.
Okay, right, I want to see that now.
Oh. So that wraps that one up. Thank you for listening. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, iTunes. Reviews really help. Subscribing on the YouTube channel where where videos are cut of the episodes. That's it. See you later.
Take it easy.
Ciao.
Cult film Face Off.
So you're the new driver, huh? I hear you think yourself to be some kind of a tough guy. A karate boy. Hey, I'm talking to you, hero.
Yeah, he thinks he's a real badass, Jackson. I think you should teach him a lesson there, Ace.